Hey everyone, Sumit on this side. This is probably the first of many videos to come as I'm sharing the product journey. I'm building this product Dwata where the core idea is what about having AI assistants for as daily drivers? So one of the core I'd say the problem that I wanted to solve is like being in the AI landscape for since early this year. As I was digging through what is happening, I started to feel that AI, like the most of the products out there, are very thin layer on top of what ChatGPT does, and that kind of starts feeling like a solution in need of a problem because ChatGPT is just a general, let's say, chat mechanism, right? I mean, it's just text manipulation, it's just a text prediction system, sorry. And that means that unless it has access to a lot of data from my end, the chat doesn't really, unless of course we are chatting about philosophical subjects maybe, the chat doesn't really help. There are a lot of ways that we can deduce something meaningful, find something actionable from the chat results. For example, we can ask these AI models to give us JSON responses, etc. But unless we give it the right kind of data, our data, right? Something that is from our company, from our personal life, etc., maybe from our emails, our databases, whatnot, then the chat doesn't really give us much, right? It's not as productive on a daily basis. So Dwata starts with this idea that let's first open up all the data that we have. Anybody who is living on the internet these days is probably accessing Gmail, is probably accessing YouTube, Slack, LinkedIn, whatnot, which means that all of these platforms, they have their own APIs. So what about collecting that data and first bringing it to my laptop, first bringing it to my machine, and then allowing AI to be able to read it, right, as and when needed, or me being, or the software being able to push that data to AI models. Of course, this sounds scary on a lot of levels. First of all, why should I trust Twitter? Uh, the answer is, I really couldn't find a very good answer for this, which is why Dwata is at the heart of it, an open source Apache 2 licensed product. So the desktop app runs on your laptop. The source code is available. I've not shifted this from my personal account to my company account. I will do that, but the source code of this is going to be available always, forever, right? That's the idea. How do I make money out of this? I'll come to that later on, but this is going to be an open source product. This is how it looks right now. I can connect to, as you can see, I've connected to two of my email inboxes. This is an email inbox I have for my hostel. I run a hostel here where I stay in the Himalayas, and this is my personal account. Now all this data is stored locally. Just to show you like where locally, if I go to my if I go to, um, I guess it is here. Okay, hang on. I have to check that. Sorry about this. So this is stored in a .local share folder. So let's go to .local/share. Share and then com Dwata app. This one. So this will vary depending on which operating system you are using. In my case, I'm on Linux. This would be very similar to how it will be on Mac OS. And this is actual emails. These are actual emails which are brought from my Gmail account, and these are emails from my ProtonMail account. Now, when I see them, so for example, when I go here, let's say inbox, these are actual emails. My account for my hostel doesn't really have many emails, but of course this one has. So if I go to, for example, uh, let's say I go into inbox, this will take a little while because there are lots of emails, and here it is, right? So these are actual email files. I could show one of them to you, but it wouldn't really be much helpful. Just for the sake of information, this is how a raw email looks like. But I digress. The actual UI shows us this, right? The idea behind Twitter is that once you have fetched all this information, I am, by the way, as you can see, All the email addresses, I've removed them just for the sake of recording this video. These are not the real email addresses. The real email addresses are something else. But once you have fetched all this data, so right now dwata has access to only my emails. I'm going to add connections to a lot of other things, everything from YouTube videos. Like if you are a content creator, you could look into your comments and then say, hey, which of my comments are actionable right now, right? You could ask questions like this. You could connect to Slack and say, what needs my attention now? You could connect to LinkedIn, and then before going into a meeting with somebody, you can say, hey, go to my LinkedIn account and find out about this person. You could look at an email thread and say, what is the summary of this thread? So before we can do interesting things like that, we need to obviously be able to connect to our data sources. So that's what Twitter does. The UI is quite not there yet. I'm still working on the UX, but as you can imagine, this sidebar probably tells you, and these are samples by the way. The data is real, but the UI, the like for example in the case of the files UI, this is not real files. So emails will be searched for attachments. Attachments will be taken out, and then you'll be able to browse through your attachments like you would do in a file browser, right? The idea is that when you go to files in dwata, you see files from any source. When you go to calendar, you see events from any source. You could attach events that are probably hosted on Discord. That's totally fine. Events that are probably, if Slack has, for example, an event system, an event API, you'd be able to see events from that in the same calendar. When you go to groups, groups has no UI right now. When you go to groups, you see both your Skype, both your groups from Slack and groups on email. So for example, you are, let's say, part of a Python user group, let's say, or a New York Walkers user group, let's say, or something like that, right? If they are an email group or a Slack group, does not really matter. You see everything together. When you go to emails, you see all your emails in one place. The search is not working right now. I cannot really show you, but as you can see, this is real emails. Now, you'd be able to auto label them through AI. So coming back to the core idea, what was the core idea that brought me to start building this product? The core idea is that just chats with AI without having context of my data is not good enough, right? Because what are the chats supposed to be about? Like, unless I'm talking about philosophy, they are not interesting to me. They are not actionable to me. There's nothing much I can get out of them on a daily basis. So I wanted to create a product where first thing I could do is just give it access to all my data, which is why, like I said, to remove that hindrance, to reduce at least that hindrance of trust, I created a product where the core of the product is completely open source. You can go ahead, all the data is residing on your laptop. Nothing leaves the laptop. There's no telemetry even. Like I am not even capturing product analytics, which is really too harsh, from a founder's perspective. I can totally accept that, but that's a problem I have to tackle on at some point. I have to figure out how do I do some basic product analytics without like having much telemetry, right? We'll come to that problem, and when we'll solve it when we come to it, right? But at this moment, you can throw anything that you have. So for example, like I said, any number of inboxes, and as long as they support IMAP, you can connect to them, right? And then allow it to go through all those emails, and then what I want to do is surface out those information. So when you go to contacts, again, these UIs are not yet built. There is internally in the database. So let me show you also that side. If you go to the raw database that is being saved on your laptop, you can also open that by the way yourself. That's totally fine. If you have a database viewer, you will see that all the mailboxes which are brought in from the IMAP accounts are stored here. All the emails that are brought in are stored here, right? There's going to become a lot of information depending on how large your inboxes are, etc. And then there are background processes which are going to be run to break them into contacts, to break them into threads, to figure out similarities of emails, or group them into notifications, figure out what's the, let's say, frequency of notifications you get from a certain source, etc. So if you're getting credit card bills, those bills will be put together in a folder depending, and it will be named by the bank that you get it from. And then once you click into that folder, like in the file UI that you have seen, you'll be able to see for that bank the entire history of the files that you've received, right? All this processing will be done and given to you in the user experience, in the user interface. but all the raw data and everything will still be available locally for you if you're curious enough to browse through it. Of course, there are other ways I want to open up this data in the future. So there'll be an API which you would be able to connect to, which allows other apps to run on this locally processed data. We'll probably be able to I want to create an ecosystem where you could run custom apps on top of your data, all of it running locally, which means other developers could probably introduce some really interesting concept of, hey, let me find the calendars and cross reference through LinkedIn and find you really interesting tips about this next meeting that is coming up, right? I don't have to write all that code, right? I don't even have to write all that AI layer interaction, whatnot. I'll basically open up an API and you could run these, let's say, small applications directly on your laptop, and those applications are basically snippets of JavaScript or something else that somebody else has written, right? So yeah, that's the core concept of data. There's a lot of work still that needs to be done, but I wanted to share this journey, and this is, hopefully, like I said, this is probably the first of many videos to come as I share this journey. Hopefully this will become a more usable product in the next couple weeks, and then I'll be able to share out. If you like this video, if you want to if you want to talk about it, if you want to brainstorm, or even just about AI and other things that I've shared in this video, happy to reach out to me. And yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you for watching.